In Between the Pylons. I'm John Camacho.
And this is Jacob Waters.
And we have a great power rankings show for you guys today. Last week was really interesting. We tried a different formula with how we were going to do it. We did it live on air with making the rankings, and I thought it was fun. It was certainly an interesting experiment, I guess you would say, to see where we were at. This week changes everything up. We went back to the old method. He did his ranking. I did my rankings. We smashed them together. We'll put those rankings on the board for you right now. Not burying the lead. I know a lot of power rankings places like they hide like, oh, here's our top 5, here's our next 5. We're not doing that. We're just throwing it all out there. What we're gonna do today with this show is we are gonna do some what's going on. We picked out a couple teams that we want to discuss what's going on with them one way or the other, good or bad. Some interesting teams that it feels like they are at a polar opposite place now in the season than they were, even a month ago or 8 weeks ago, whatever it is. Before we get to that, I want to discuss our top 5. I want to break down where we're at with the top 5 because there was some legitimate disagreements between the two of us on who should have been, well, number 1 was unanimous, but who should have been 2 through 5, and I want to start there.
Yeah, we definitely. I'm glad we agreed on the Packers, though. Mm-hmm. So last week we got to do that behind the scenes thing, mainly just because of how weird of a week it was. Mm-hmm. In looking at that, we just wanted to show y'all the way that it went. This week we were kind of able to get back on track. We had a lot more agreements than disagreements, but top 5 interchangeable. I had the Bucs at 2. It went Packers, Bucs, Patriots for me. Did you had the Patriots at your number 2 overall team, correct?
I'll pull the curtain back even a little bit further. We were arguing last night before I put in my final rankings this morning. We were arguing last night. I was going to put the Patriots at 1.
Yeah,
I really was. I was
Packers,
strongly believing in the Patriots. Went back and looked at the game. I did watch that game, but I just kind of went back and I was like, okay, well, Patriots had 4 turnovers versus the Titans. Titans played an ugly game, but you made the point that the Patriots win wasn't like the most beautiful, they didn't just absolutely dog smash them a little bit, and I do ultimately agree with that. And then you look at the Packers. I can't argue that I think they have a top 3, top 4 quarterback in the NFL. They have a great defense, a defense that is coming on.
Week either.
Yeah, absolutely, and it doesn't matter. I mean, when you're that great, man, I don't think it matters a whole lot. We saw the same thing with a Roethlisberger a couple weeks ago, just lighting the world on fire. Didn't end up winning, but came off of really no practice and then played well in the game. I look at Aaron Rodgers. I look at that run game when Aaron Jones is healthy. He's a little banged up right now, but it doesn't matter. A.J. Dillon is still really, really good. The offensive line is playing well. Obviously, have good wide receiver weapons, and as much as we've shit on their wide receiver weapons for years now. Obviously, we've known their number 1 is their number 1. That's set in stone.
Yeah.
But it seems like they have enough contributing guys to make it works, right? Like you have Lazard, you have you have Cobb, I think
the Randall Cobb experiment has worked out too.
For the most part, and it's not like he's not setting the world on fire, but he's another good option for Aaron Rodgers, and I think that's what you need. Yeah, absolutely. He just does a good job. I don't know. At the end of the day, that's all you need, especially with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. It just feels like, man, keep it close. Aaron Rodgers is going to come out and win it in the end. That wasn't true 2 weeks ago, but I think it was this week. I agree. Look, he's number 1. Where we're disagreeing, you put the Bucs at number 2, and yes. I just don't look at a team that's playing, not well. I think got outplayed a little bit by the Colts. You look at the Colts; they were able to run down the Bucs' throat. Now the Colts have run down anybody's throat all year. Jonathan Taylor is borderline MVP conversation and is certainly the best running back in football right now. So I don't want to discredit that. He's been doing it to everybody, but the Bucs have been known for 2 years now as you can't run on them. You are one dimensional versus the Bucs. That has really not been the case this year as much as it has in recent past. And I don't look at them as the second best team in the NFL.
I think it showed a lot of grit for me though, looking at that win. And the edge was the recency bias of, it was a few weeks ago now, but the Bucs playing the Patriots, I had them so close in my head. The Patriots had a lot of lucky stuff fall their way against the depleted Titans team. So I kind of feel like, yes, they took what was given to them. The Bucs are playing one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now, though, that's the Indianapolis Colts. Mm-hmm. And to come back in the fashion that they did, the multifaceted way that it wasn't Brady lighting them up, it wasn't the defense lighting them up, it was Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette had one of the best games that he's ever played in a long time, and I gave them a lot of points in my head for, I guess, the dynamic that they were able to come back and beat a team like that. And, yes, some people would say, I guess the naysayers, that Carson Wentz gave them that game. He did for whatever it was in that last quarter right there. Carson Wentz swapped jerseys and went back all the way to the Philly days, the later Philly days where he was not having it happen. But the Bucs capitalized on some opportunity, and I think it was them, I guess, dosing the fire, just putting it out that the Colts. Imagine if the Colts come out and win this game where they're at right now. It was them doing that, bucking that trend, is why I awarded them what I did.
I get it. I mean, I really do. I do think, I thought the Colts ultimately outplayed the Buccaneers, so I count that in a little bit. I think the Bucs have a little bit been on somewhat of a downswing as far as like.
They play the Patriots, though. Do you really think the Patriots win that game?
Yeah, right now I do.
Really?
Yeah, and look, you mentioned, Bucs did play the Patriots. The Patriots were not the same team they are now. The Patriots are on a 6-1 game winning streak. They are a different football team now than they were the first 4 weeks of the season.
I'll give you that.
I mean, that's kind of how the Patriots have been for years. I mean, they take a couple weeks to get going. There's no stress. There's no worry there for Bill Belichick. They figure that team out as it goes throughout. I feel like we can point to a lot of great Brady seasons where that was the case early on, right?
Oh, yeah.
As a Dolphins fan, I always circled, week 1 against the Patriots was a winnable game for the Dolphins just because we could catch them sleeping a little bit off. I don't know. That's something I remember for years. So I always bring that up from time to time. At the end of the day, I do think the Patriots are one of the best overall teams in the NFL. Their defense is phenomenal. They're getting enough out of the run game is awesome. They're getting enough out of their passing game. Mac Jones is playing serviceable, really, really good football. I mean, he's not lighting the world on fire, but he's getting better every week, it seems like. And yeah, I think they're one of the best teams in football. They're overall teams. Now, if you say top to bottom, who's the better roster? Of course, the Bucs are clearly the better roster.
I'm not looking at solely rosters, though. It was the way that the games were played. The Patriots struggled. It was 16-13, ugly starting at the third quarter, and then that's when the Titans had their mishaps that they did. Props to you, Patriots, for capitalizing on them, but it was just, I feel like that game was really, really neck and neck with a team that is as good as I consider the Patriots right now and is trending down that the Titans just depleted as it gets, running on guys like Damian Hillard at running back position. It's bad. The Patriots should have done more, I guess, earlier. And
that.
They won. They won by a few touchdowns. That's cool. They covered the spread. Awesome. But the Bucs coming back in the way they did, it meant more to me.
Yeah, I get that. I think that's a really good point. Cardinals being your number 4 team, they were my number 3. They end up number 4 on our Ultimate Power rankings. We're splitting hairs a little bit, but falling 2 weeks on a bye week, I didn't think that was fair either. I obviously I had them falling 1 game, so like I can't really hate you for having them fall 2. But Cardinals, do you still look at them as a top tier team?
Yeah, they're a very good team. They've done well with missing their big hitters and superstars like they have. I expect them to get right back on track, but it's just one of those things where when the Patriots and Bucs are doing what they do, you're going to fall down just because you really haven't had the superstars to sit heavy on my mind right now, and it was a bye week.
Yeah, 9-2 team that falls 2 spots. I just wanted to bring it up real quick. I absolutely agree with everything said. At number 5, we have the Ravens sitting still after a super, super ugly win over the Browns. 4 interceptions from Lamar was not a pretty game, but at the end of the day, hey, good teams win ugly games. I mean, you can give them credit for that. It does feel like the Ravens are one of those teams where they're an 8-win team, but you look at all those games and you say, man, if they were a 5-win team, a 6-win team, wouldn't surprise you, right? Like they've had some close calls. They've had some low moments this year. It feels like they're easily the worst 8-win team out there, in my opinion, just the way I look at it. Maybe that's not true. The Chiefs might be 8 wins too, and we have the Chiefs side.
The Chiefs aren't.
The Chiefs aren't 8 wins; they're 7 wins. Either way, I had the Ravens fall a little bit. You didn't, and that's totally fine. Listen, we're all obviously going to be a little different. I had them at 8, so I wasn't completely, too far down on them. Where are they out? Just as we're going through this top 5, just touching on all of them. Where are you at with the Ravens right now?
Yeah, I think it just depends on which way you look at, I guess, the struggles. There's times where a team winning a game like that could be resiliency, and that's the way that I looked at that. The Cleveland Browns it wasn't looking pretty, so a lot of people could say the Ravens played down to that level, and they just survived this just overall crap fest of a game, and it was a very, very, very boring struggle fest of a game. But the Ravens are still doing what they do, and if they're able to win when Lamar is not Lamar, my God, just when he's Lamar, I'm sorry, it's the same thing, and that's why I have them stacked up with 5, 6, and 7 in my book. They're very, very close altogether with Ravens, Chiefs, and Bills. When they have some weaknesses, but I've seen the Chiefs lose at their weaknesses. I've seen the Bills lose at their weaknesses. The Ravens, too, for what it is. Last night was that, though, and they were able to get through that win and get it done. When each one of those teams is hitting with their big hitters, get out of the way. Have fun, because there's nothing you can do about that. I just have the Ravens at the top just because that's the way the ranking's set.
Yeah, I'm completely okay with that. Bills going up 4 spots. Last team we'll talk about before we get to our main segment here. I just want to touch on them because I know we're not going to touch on them in the main segment. Getting back on track feels like they've had just this kind of season. Absolute roller coaster of great game when Josh Allen is playing well, when everything's working in the pass game. Yeah, they're damn near unstoppable. When that pass game is not working as well, feels like that defense is just okay, and the run game is near non-existent, I would say. Interesting team to look at because, I mean, yeah, they could go on fire. They could go on a 3-4 game win streak and win the Super Bowl. They absolutely could if they get hot at the right time. It seems like they're hot and cold this year. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, that's why when it comes to this division, I think the Patriots are going to stick with it and keep it going, just because they're the more sound and complete team. Is Josh Allen better than Mac? Duh, of course, by far, not even close. But weaknesses give the blueprint on how to beat you, and I feel like the Patriots, it's a very, very small book, which involves getting in Mac Jones' head, and with what Bill has protected around him right now, it doesn't seem like it's happening that much. The Bills, they have a format to where you can get around them and beat them. Of course, Josh Allen can overpower that, and his superstar, status can do what it does, and a lot of teams like this, they have that happen. But Buffalo, you just got to get ready. Hopefully you can survive and weather this storm, and they're going to be in the playoffs for sure. I would say for your sake, though, overall Super Bowl run, you really got to find a way to dethrone the Pats and try to get the playoffs moving through Buffalo. I think it's important.
Yeah, that is really important. All right, let's move on to our really main and only segment that we're going to do on this episode. What's going on, man? We're going to talk about some teams that it just feels like it's different now than where it was 3 or 4 weeks ago. First team I want to talk about is let's go Washington. All right, let me go Washington first here. Number 17 on our power rankings. They've lived in that like 20 to 16 range in our power rankings. It hasn't really changed a whole lot, but they're on a 3-game win streak. They are looking good. Obviously beat a Seahawks team that is, it's done. We just closed the book on them in our podcast now. But talking about Washington here, I look at Taylor Heineke as a guy who, I hope he gets the job. Yeah. He is the only undrafted quarterback in the NFL starting right now.
Old Dominion.
Old Dominion quarterback. I didn't even realize he went there until I saw a graphic on the screen last night in the primetime game that he's playing. Look, I mean, he says Brett Favre was his idol growing up. Plays like him. I mean, just it seems like the play is never dead. Seems like he is always ready to go and throw that Hail Mary type of thing. That was what he was last year, and it seems like now he has gotten away from just throwing the ball up and trying to get some big plays, big wins, or whatever you want to call it. That still happens, and he can have the good on that. But at the end of the day, he is playing smart football. He is checking it down when he needs to. He has a team around him right now with weapons that's like, okay, hey, he doesn't have to take on the entire team and win games by himself. He has a pretty good defense on the other side of the ball. He has weapons all over the field on offense, and he is playing well. He is making plays work when it doesn't work schematically, and he is performing in the offense really, really well. I say all that to say, I think this team is very different than what they were 4 or 5 weeks ago. This is a team that at 5 wins in the NFC East, I think they could get that 6 or 7 wildcard spot. I think they could play upset to one of these top teams on our power rankings that are going to have, that second, third seed, wherever it's going to be. Am I wrong? Am I crazy for saying this is a team that, looking back, we're going to say this is a storybook, season for Washington?
No, it really could be. That was one of the reasons that I went into this year thinking that Heineke should be the guy going in the first place, just because of the dog in the fight that he was, that he would go out there against all odds, which was was the mighty Buccaneers in last year's playoffs and just have the performance that he did. It was gritty, it was tough, it was putting your heart on your sleeve, and you win your teammates by that. You win your locker room by that, and they rally around you. This year, kind of thought the same thing. Fitzmagic got the job, Fitzmagic got hurt, and then it was this kind of weird, awkward, different start for what Washington had. Heineke didn't really start firing on all cylinders. His team was rough. They're peaking. They're peaking at the right time. I feel like there's a lot of other teams, and there's one in their division who may have peaked too soon in the Dallas Cowboys. You got to rebound. Washington isn't only looking at this wild card spot. They're nipping at Dallas's heels right now for that overall division. And you don't want to play them. They're scary. I know we're going to talk about them all later, but I would just say right now it's looking, if Washington is able to squeak in and get one of those playoff spots, they're going to have to face the Rams. I'm just saying, in one of those matchups, man, there's a world where I might like Washington against a lot of these other teams in the playoffs. Wow. They're good. They're peaking.
I'm glad I'm not the only one, man. I'm glad I'm not just crazy.
I've always had because we got looked at, both of us, because we were both really high on Washington. We got looked as crazy for them doing that right now. And there's a lot of other 5-win teams out there who I would say we're trending down on. I mean, we just did our main podcast, which was a Close the Book segment. Go check that out, by the way. It's on the YouTube channel. And we had the Panthers in there that we closed the book on. We had the Bears. Those are Bears, not 5 wins, but the Panthers and Saints. 2 other 5-win teams competing for this NFC wildcard spot. There's just a different feel to the success on and off the field with this team right now, though. They're trending up, the other's trending down. And I'm going to go ahead and go over to my team, talking about trending up. This one you better watch out for overall. Put the league on watch, and they are clicking. San Francisco 49ers. My God, they are healthy. My God, the scheme is working. Kyle Shanahan, I guess you just sat back, just put your hands in your pockets, and you said, y'all can laugh at me all you want if I'm 2-5. That is fine. You turned it around. Elijah Mitchell, you're able to take a running back like him and turn him into, he gave him 27 carries for 138 yards and like 8 catches also. It was insane. That defense is traveling well. I want no piece of them. My Vikings just got a piece of them. So I think the 49ers are going to be able to wrap up that wild card spot, and man, they are a team that I could take over any of the other ones in the playoffs.
Look, they're playing better than anybody else in that division right now. And look, I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we'll be talking about another one.
Of the week too.
Yeah, absolutely, a huge riser going up 8 spots. They proved it, man. They have been on a little bit of a win streak. It feels like they're all together. They got healthy at the right time. They had a lot of injury issues early. Garoppolo playing well. Interesting that we're not hearing any buzz about that rookie quarterback that they traded up for. Don't need to. Hey,
not once.
We knew that it would probably, at least I was saying, and I don't know that everybody was saying it, but I was certainly saying, hey, I think he needs a year off. I think he needs a redshirt year in the NFL. That seemed to be my argument for it. Haven't heard his name. I think that's a good move. I think week 1 we saw him come out for some goal line stuff just to get some NFL action, and I actually think that was a mistake overall for Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. I think it distracted the team a little bit. I think it was a mistake to put the idea in the zeitgeist that he's going to be the starter, that he's going to take over early on in the season, right? And then Garoppolo gets hurt. He does get that job, and he struggles. There's no other way to say it. He struggled. That's okay. He's a young guy. He has all the potential in the world to be a star later on, but right now this is Jimmy Garoppolo's team. Right now he is getting it done. Deebo Samuel going down for a couple weeks is definitely unfortunate. It's really unfortunate the way that happened. Just that series.
Though, for what it was, looking at the injury too,
looked bad.
Yeah,
but I mean, just to see Dalvin Cook go down one play, and then the very next play, Deebo Samuel gets the ball and he goes down. That was really sad to see. Just in the world of the NFL, see 2 top tier players in the NFL go down. But hey, he should be ready at the very, very latest for the playoffs. Like, he will be ready to go for the playoffs. Probably going to be back in like 3 to 4 weeks for your fantasy playoffs. Overall, like you said, he's turning Elijah Mitchell into a star. Don't know where Trey Sermon is, but I think that was ultimately a bad move to trade up for a Trey Sermon when Elijah Mitchell was on the board in the 6th round. That's just what he does. He takes these type of running backs, and if Elijah Mitchell can stay healthy, the sky's the limit for him.
So let me ask you before we move on to your other on the move kind of thing. What if, and I don't think it's that far out, that the 49ers make a run, and let's just say they make it to the championship game. what is the future outlook of a Jimmy Garoppolo on that team? Say Jimmy does good. He's not the piece that it was in the Super Bowl that as to why they didn't win it. He was good.
I think that was one of the main concerns that you have when you trade up for a Trey Lance. What happens if they come into the next season and Jimmy Garoppolo takes you to the NFC Championship, takes you to the Super Bowl, even if you don't win it all? What happens? God forbid it. What if they win it all?
If they win it, that's why I wasn't even going to go that far on the reach, just because. But then again, this team is one of the hottest in football right now.
I will sit here and say, I know they're number 8 on our rankings. They moved up 8 spots. We have to be a little bit pragmatic with how they move up.
Yes.
They are every bit as good as any other team in the NFL right now. They are. They can beat any team in the NFL right now. If they were playing the Packers right now, yeah, they're probably not the favorite, but it's probably the game of the week. We're all excited to see what happens.
I've always evaluated teams looking at if they play their best. If they play their best, get ready. The 49ers at their best, there's very few teams who can contend against them.
And to get back to your point, yeah, I don't know what happens to Trey Lance. I don't know what happens to that front office. It just looks.
Away 3 picks,
you traded away 3 first-round picks, and it starts to look like a terrible move. It starts to look like an absolutely awful move when you were sitting at 11. I think that's where they were at. If you were sitting at 11, you could have added Devontae Smith. Let's say just off the top of my head, you could have added him instead of trading up for a quarterback you didn't even need. And that's super, super anecdotal and maybe not a fair argument, but at the end of the day, yeah, that has got to be a real concern. Now, it's a good problem to have because you're a winning football team and you're doing a lot.
And if they somehow get a Super Bowl out of this, it looks bad for the Trey Lance move overall. You do have a Super Bowl though.
Yeah, so you're not losing your job over it.
Yeah, it's hard to say you will over that.
Yeah,
but the future, it's just kind of.
It's a tough situation to be in. It sucks for Garoppolo, especially if he takes it over. But at the end of the day, hey, Garoppolo has yet to have a full 16-game season with the 49ers, and it's not going to happen this year either. So regardless of what happens, even if he just is a backup for the next 2 or 3 years, right? Worse things have happened than have a young superstar backup that could be, special, right? And let him develop for 2-3 years. Let him, maybe in 4 years you have Aaron Rodgers, what Aaron Rodgers was after nothing wrong
Brett
left.
With that. We have such a we need that satisfaction now in our face mentality, especially with these NFL quarterbacks, getting thrown out there. And then we're so quick to write him off when it's like, oh, he's playing like shit right now. Get him out of there. I want to applaud Jimmy Garoppolo for handling all the headlines that he was in the Bay Area and getting hurt and having to have a Trey Lance have the opportunity to take his job away from him. Having a 2-5 record, and they went and 2-4, whatever the case may be. It was right around there, very close. And coming in and taking care of this team and showing, hey, this is still my team. This is still my squad. I get the most out of these weapons around them. And I know you can look at fantasy outlook whenever Trey Lance was in. Debo wasn't being Debo right now, and George Kittle was still hurt and banged up, but that team was not clicking the right way at all. Jimmy G has him on the right track. Yes, I'm still wondering if we're going to hit that spot in the playoffs where it's like, ooh, that throw. That's why they went and wanted to go get a Trey Lance, or that was why they wanted to do that, because I know that's exactly why they did it in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they were one big throw away from beating the Chiefs that first time.
Exactly.
And that throw didn't go their way. So
I don't know if Trey Lance is the guy for it, but that throw is why they went and started.
Yeah, it's a fair point. It really is. Let's move on to the last what's going on team that we got to talk about, and it's the LA Rams, man. Okay, so they make all of these moves, right? They go and trade for Von Miller. They go and sign an OBJ. They make all these moves to build the superstar, Golden State Warriors style unbeatable team. And then you start to fall apart. It speaks to how much chemistry is such a big part of the NFL and of football, when it's like, okay, yeah, teams can be great on paper, but at the end of the day, you got to see how they're performing as a unit. It's such a big thing because it feels like ever since they've made those moves, they've been on a downswing a little bit, right? The Rams don't look like the same Rams.
They're 0-3 since Von Miller.
Yeah, exactly. And they spent a 2nd and 3rd round pick, and I know they don't give a shit about picks. Like, to them, that's $25 and a pack of gum for them. But at the end of the day, a 2nd and 3rd round pick is pretty good for a lot of teams. And they spend that on a Von Miller that is not getting the production you would hope to get, especially for a guy who, he's a free agent next year anyway. So shocking, absolutely shocking. Odell Beckham Jr. comes in, looked like a nice player to have. And then the next week we have Woods go down, and he's a guy that needs to step up and play. And he's, we'll see. The connection there with Stafford hasn't hit. I don't expect that to hit overnight. He
got a long touchdown.
Yeah, so we'll wait and see on that. We'll see what happens overall. it's not looking good. Now, I will say Matthew Stafford is hurt. Like he is clearly struggling with some back issues, struggling. I mean, he seems like every year he has some kind of back problem. We'll see what happens with that, but he is not playing at the MVP caliber that he was 3-4 weeks ago. You see this defense like taking a step off. Like, I watched the game last night or yesterday, 2 days ago, whatever it was, and I was like, okay, where's Aaron Donald? And I've never once asked that question. I've never once asked that question as long as he's been in the NFL, and this is the first time I'm like, okay, where is he? And granted, like, he's a D tackle, you can kind of, I don't know, I don't want to dive into that too much. I'm not shitting on Aaron Donald by any means. I'm questioning this team overall. I'm wondering what the move forward is. They could win with Jared Goff, and they could win just using the run game. And now it seems like the Rams just want to drop back and pass 40 times a game with a injured or at least struggling Matthew Stafford. When you have a guy in Henderson, I'm not going to say he's going to light the world on fire, but it seems like he's a good running back. Seems like you haven't
McVay's
lost
good
that
enough
play.
To find him the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do. What's going on? I don't have the full answers, but it seems like they're in a downward trend, and if they want to be the Super Bowl winning team that they can be, they absolutely can still win the Super Bowl. I'm not taking that away from them. They have to start improving.
You're right. Von Miller tweeted out, woke up 7-0. Well, now you're waking up, you're 7-3, 7-4, whatever they are. It's not looking good right now. The pieces really aren't just gelling together. I was listening to some of the Rams because I like going and looking at some of the beat writers that are talking about this team, their own team in particular, because you get to hear some of those quieter things that just don't get overall major headlines. And one of them was talking about the impact of Robert Woods in more. Like, he is so much more than just that wide receiver out on the field, talking about his ability to run block, talking about his ability to lift the other guys up around him in practice. Just some of the guys saying that the Rams are missing that leader from that, that positions group. And Cooper Kupp, of course, and all his amazing skills that he is, but they're saying Robert Woods brought a certain thing that helped that team so much more. And OBJ being a better wide receiver, a better pass catcher, yes, but overall as a tool for that team, I don't think OBJ can fill those shoes. No. That's just not what he's supposed to do. That's not what he's going to do. So it's just hard. They have some growing pains, and I think that they caught a lot of teams at the wrong time. They really did. They just got done playing the Packers. If I'm not mistaken, they played the Colts, correct? And they lost to the Colts.
They lost to the Colts. Yeah, they lost to the Titans. They've lost to some good teams.
So, it was just unfortunate. It's their past few games have been whenever the lights have been brightest, and we've wanted to see them really get going. They played a very healthy 49ers team too. So that was one of the ones that was just icing on the cake. And then I've heard another whole argument too in saying that some of their other wins are very overrated. Yeah. They got to beat the Texans, the Lions, the Giants, and the Seahawks. What do you value that?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Look, you look at, their past 4 losses are to the 49ers, our number 8 team, the Packers, our number 1 team, the Titans, our number 12 team. That's only because
very injured.
Yeah, they lost Julio, AJ Brown, and Derrick Henry. They had at least 2 of those when they played the Rams. Derrick Henry, I believe, had already gotten hurt. And then the Cardinals, our number 4 team. Those are the last 4 losses they've had. Their last 4 wins are Seahawks, our bottom 10 team, Giants, bottom 10 team, Lions, our worst team, and Texans, a bottom 3 team.
And they get to go beat up on the Jaguars this week.
Now, granted, they did beat the Bucs early on in the season, so it's like they don't have completely terrible losses. They beat the Colts.
They did beat the Colts,
but the Colts, that was early on in the season when the Colts were still finding their way. They weren't running the ball enough at that point in the season. Yeah, look, they've had a tough 3-game stretch. No one can take that away from them. But if you're supposed to be a Super Bowl caliber team, you got to win those games. You got to win at least a couple of those games. You can't go 0-3 against 3 teams that are going to be in the playoffs. All right, you're
I would say 1-3 because they have the Bucs win.
Well, I'm just saying the past 3 weeks.
In those, yeah. And it doesn't get much better. Yeah, you do get to take care of the Jaguars this weekend. Don't you dare have a Buffalo Bills-style hiccup, though, on this kind of downward trend that you're at. You got to face the Cardinals, got to face the Vikings, 49ers again, too. And the Ravens.
Yeah.
You have some very big matchups.
Very, very big matchups. All right, hey, that is it. We will move right along into our final segment with the one we do every single week. Looking forward to week 13 and the matchups we are most excited for.
And the first game that I'm going to talk about, since we're going to look at these matchups that are just, it's coming down to it right when it comes to these wild card positions. And for the Bengals and the Chargers right now, there's not a better time to capitalize on it. The Bengals just absolutely put a whooping on the Steelers. Almost borderline closed the book on the Steelers season. They're still fighting for it, clinging to it. And the Chargers just had a very disappointing loss to the Broncos, which leaves me still questioning, what are the Broncos? Are the Broncos, is it saying more about this, saying more about the Chargers? Chargers need to have a get-right week against the Bengals, but it's the wrong time to have a get-right week against them. The Bengals are unleashing that offense with Joe Mixon. All their passing weapons. It's going to be a good one. Like I said, I've said it so many times, I just want to see a good game. I want to see the high-powered offenses take care of business. Chargers really need this, though.
Couldn't agree more. I don't know what's going to happen there. I could see it going either way. I think the story of the game will be the Bengals' run game and run defense. However that goes, I don't know how it'll go, but we'll see. Moving on to, this got to be the marquee game of the week, a division battle between the Patriots and Bills. We were forecasting this 3 weeks ago, talking about the Bills and Patriots play twice over the next 3 weeks, man, and it is going to decide the fate of the AFC on Monday night, the AFC East specifically. On Monday night, they get to clash, and I am so excited. It's going to be in New York, in Buffalo Bills Stadium. I don't know how it's going to go. I have no expectations for this game. I could see it going either way. I think, Bills ultimately have the most firepower, but at the end of the day, we saw how the Titans were able to, gash the Patriots in the run game, but really weren't able to do a whole lot in the pass game. I could see,
is Buffalo expected to do that?
Exactly. No, I think the matchup wise, it's probably a good game for the Patriots. I think the Patriots can handle, the pass game of a Josh Allen. I think they can, you can't ultimately stop it, especially if it's really gotten going, but at the end of the day, they can probably handle that, and as long as the Bills can't get going on the ground, I do think this will be a Patriots win, but hey, I would not bet on it. I'm just excited to see what happens. Going to be a great game either way, and we'll be back talking about it.
I think the Patriots got that game.
I think so too. At 8-4, if they have that, it seems like they take over a really, really good chance to win the division and win that number 1 seed. It feels like that's it. All right, guys. Hey, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And we will be back next week with another Power Rankings video. Peace. 7.